Dayman. Oh, conqueror of the night, man. Oh, hello there, friends. So today we're going to be doing another tutorial. This time covering weapons, ammunition, and attachments. We're going to go over almost everything there is to know. As you can see on the index to the left, which I've put in there because some of you may know a lot about some weapons and less about others, or you may be here because you're like, hey man, what's better, the Matamores or the Timberwolf? All things we're going to be covering, including how to craft certain attachments. So if you want to skip, you can simply click on the index to your left in the section you want to, and it will take you to the section you want to go. Well, first we're going to cover some basics. Alright, right here I have a Colt with 2 Swift magazines. Now if you look in my menu, you'll see that in my inventory, it sounds fancier that way, does it not? That we only have 1 mag. That's because 1 is already chambered in. Now if you wanted to take that one out, you could simply press T, and now when checking the inventory, we have 2 magazines there, but there's nothing in the Colt. So ammo, if you want a magazine in because you'd be like, pew pew pew, and there's no zombies dying, well that's because you're a noob and you need to learn this stuff. So we'll hit that one and we'll reload it. Now it's loaded. The one on the top is the one you have. So we have a partially empty one. Do some rapid fire there, and now we're gonna learn a few things. Alright, so you could press reload, but say you have a couple mags and you're not sure which one, and you have the extra time and space to check your mags before a zombie or an angry PvPer is on top of you. If you press left click on the top one, it won't switch the other magazine in, and if you check your inventory, it won't be there. Where is it? It's on the ground, right? So now we're gonna learn how to basically reload real quickly. Now we're gonna go over all the weapons, including their magazines and what it takes to reload them. But just basics of reloading, you're gonna get the magazine associated with the gun and the bullet associated with the magazine and the gun, and you're gonna put the bullet and the magazine in the crafting bar, and it's really that simple. Now you're gonna load up your mag. Now say you had a different magazine, like say this one's 1 out of 7, you know you're gonna go into town, there may be someone there, and you want to switch ahead of time and you don't have bullets to reload, you can simply switch between mags, and you can do that. Alternatively, there's the reload function, where when you're out, you press reload, it switches the mag, and then one thing you want to be aware of is it'll drop on the ground. So you won't pick that one up automatically. So if you're in a firefight and you have a bunch of mags, you win the firefight, you know, or you deal with the zombies and you're in a different area and you're like, hey, where did all my mags go? You dropped them on the ground if you pressed reload. So the empty one is in there, and you can see that if you press T, there isn't an option. So you're going to have to reload that. Alright, but now since we've covered the Colt, we're going to get into pistols, right? Now we're going to find our pistol box in this, like, almost a humble version of the Matrix room where all those weapons slid across. I've got guns on guns on guns in here, guys, and it's pretty fun. Tons of mags and all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to offload that one, and I believe we already have a magazine in it. So we're going to be covering the Colt, which is a semi-automatic pistol. Now, it's the most common gun in the game because it can be found in civilian and military locations. Its magazines hold 7 rounds, and the base damage of the round is 34%. Now, when dealing with zombies, it will take 2 shots to the head. So if you think about it, if you're 100% accurate, you know, and you're doing 2 shots to the head, then basically you've got 3.5 zombies killed. Right? So as far as we're going to be comparing, like, what's the most effective, right? So that is the Colt, and we have so many Colts because they're so freaking common. I really don't need it. So I'm going to offload it into a random chest right here, and we're going to be covering some of the other guns, some of the other pistols. Now the next pistol I'd like to cover is, where are you? The Barrette. So here we have the Barrette, got it in our menu. Now you're going to turn off safety. Now it uses a level magazine, and it has 13. Let's see. Let's drop this one out. Now since it had some bullets and we dropped it out, it went into our inventory. We're going to reload it. Takes 1 civilian bullet to reload an entire magazine. Now, like the Colt, It takes basically 2 shots to a civilian zombie's head in order to kill it, or basically 4 for a military or police zombie. Now the base damage of this round is 35%. It's an uncommon gun, and the magazine's also uncommon, the level mag. And it uses civ bullets, and it's a police designated weapon, so it will come in one of the 4 police locations in the world. Now I like the Barrette because it's kind of fun, and it's basically got almost 100% more bullets in the magazine than the Colt does. And we're going to be going which one I think is the best a little later. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the Magnum. Now the Magnum uses Winchester clips. So we're going to pull it out, take a look at it. We've got one in there already. Press T did not drop. Now this one also uses civ bullets to reload. Now what's cool about this one is it's pretty darn powerful. The base damage on this gun is 65%. It only has 6 rounds, but at 65% it only takes 1 headshot to a zombie to kill it. So if you compare it to the Colt, you would get 3.5 zombies at 100% effectiveness, accuracy. With this you get 6 zombies at 100% accuracy to headshots. The Barrette using the level with 13 rounds, you've also got 6.5. So it's kind of nice. But the interesting thing about the Magnum is it's 0.7 kilograms. Now we're going to take a look at the Colt and the Barrette real quick. The Barrette is 1 kilogram. So if you're thinking about like a backup weapon, the Magnum has the edge as far as weight's concerned. And the Colt's even 1 kilogram itself. So we're going to put that one back in the box. Now you can see you can add sights and barrel attachments, and we're going to go over attachments at the end. If you want to skip to that, index to your left. We can add flash hiders, compressors, silencers, things like that. And you can add sights. Generally a red dot sight's one of the best ones for this, as it makes lining up your shot a lot easier and a lot quicker. So I think the pistol's pretty good because it's 1 shot to the head. So we're going to put that one back, and finally we're on to the Desert Falcon. Now this bad baby, this is a tricked out one, which you can see. It's got a red dot sight and a suppressor. So it's less likely to be heard by zombies and other players. So this is a stock one. You can see how it also uses swift mags. So if you think about it, the Desert Falcon weighs in at 1.5 kilos, right? So it's the heaviest pistol. It's semi-automatic. It has 7 rounds in a mag, and the swift mags are very, very common, while the Desert Falcon itself is a rare gun found only in military locations. The base damage of this pistol is between 60 to 67%. So if you're looking for a primary pistol instead of like a backup pistol, the Desert Falcon's easily the best choice. My personal preference for a backup pistol, as far as which one's best: primary pistol Desert Falcon, backup pistol Magnum, because of its hitting power and the fact it uses 6 bullets and it's the lightest weight. And when you think about it, when you're out looting, you want as much inventory space and weight as possible, because if you find a number of heavy guns, you're going to want to pick them all up. The weight adds up. So I think that the Magnum makes the best backup pistol. Alright, so now we're going to cover bows and crossbows. Now first we're going to cover the longbow. You can see it here. And we're going to want to test this thing out. So we're going to grab a couple arrows. Now the first key point about the longbow is that it's the only weapon that you can craft. And if you want to learn how to craft it, it's pretty simple. 6 sticks will get you 3 wooden supports. You're also going to need rope. And if you don't have any rope, but you do have some cloth and a handsaw, you can make 2 rope out of 1 cloth. So we're going to take that out, put the rope, put the wooden supports, and boom, we have ourselves a longbow. So we're going to try out all the weapons, and we're going to compare them outside, because there's something interesting about bows. Alright, what am I looking for? I'm looking for sticks because not only can you craft the longbow itself, but you can also craft its ammunition. So we're going to hold right trigger to lock an arrow, knock an arrow. Left trigger releases. Now if you don't hit a zombie, you can retrieve the arrow. What's interesting, if you do hit a zombie, you can't retrieve the arrow. That may be changed in the future, but right now that's how it stands. Now, what's cool about arrows is you can craft them using sticks and nails, and you can get some arrows here. So, the longbow has a slow reload time. It has 70% base damage, and when you see, like, you have your kind of aiming reticle right there, but once you knock the arrow, it goes away. So this is all by feel. You know, you kind of have to get a feel for where you're aiming, and then all that kind of stuff, which makes it kind of difficult. Now at 70% base damage, it's not a one-shot kill bow in most situations. Now let's compare this to the longbow. Now the longbow has a sight on it. And it's kind of funny how you kind of hold it like this, horizontally as opposed to vertically. But you do have a sight, which is pretty good. And the base damage of the compound bow is 99%, so it can be a one-hit kill weapon. It has the sight, and if you hold T, you can add a tactical attachment, which is awesome. Now, just like the other bow, you can't just refire again. You're going to have to individually reload the arrow and fire again, and you can retrieve your arrows. And finally, we're going to be covering the crossbow. Now this is easily my favorite, and it is a pretty good primary PvE weapon. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for PvP because of the slow reload rate. And here it's got a nice stock 6x scope. It's got 99% base damage. It requires low inventory space, and it's lightweight as far as a primary weapon, coming in at 1.5 kilos. Now I dropped it on the ground like a noob. Pick it up again. So I like it that it comes with a stock. It's quiet, so when you're dealing with zombies, and even players, if you can manage to sneak up on them and get a nice headshot in, you have little to worry about in terms of, you know, repercussions of being attacked or aggroing a number of zombies or attracting other players. So it's pretty good that way. So I would say overall the best weapon out of the bows and crossbows is easily the crossbow. Although it is pretty cool that the longbow is the only craftable item in the game. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so now we're on to one of my favorite weapons just in terms of just like sheer fun of firing it, and that's shotguns. There are 3 different types of shotguns, but first we're going to go over ammunition. It uses buckshot and slugs, and you can craft that like so. Now, here's what a slug looks like, blue, and then buckshot is red. Buckshot is far more prevalent in the game, much more easier to find, as you can tell by my little stockpile here. I found a lot more buckshot than I have slugs, but it's easy to craft these shells, right? All you need is a box of shells, put it in an inventory, and if you want to make slugs, you're going to want to use bolts. Now, 1 box and I believe 2 bolts produces 6 slugs. Now, 1 box and 2 nails produces 6 buckshot. So if you can find boxes, it's pretty easy to produce a number of, you know, extra ammunition. Now, generally, since buckshot's more prevalent, you're probably going to be combining those shell boxes and bolts in order to get slugs. There's an interesting thing when comparing the two. You may think that buckshot's better for crowd control, but the shotguns have a limited radius, and buckshot isn't the best actually at crowd control. The best one is slugs, because unlike in real life where slugs fire a singular projectile, slugs in this game fire 2 projectiles which can penetrate. So if there's zombies lined up, you're able to hit them as the slugs will penetrate. So I find that pretty interesting, but if you think about it, when you get a box of shells and put 2 bolts in it, it produces slugs. So that's kind of like you can think of that mentally as a way to kind of make sense of the whole situation. So we're going to get some ammunition here, and we're going to get our shotguns, and we're going to go over them. Now there's 3 types of shotguns. The first of which is the double barrel shotgun. Now the double barrel shotgun's interesting because it has the lightest weight and it can do the most damage. Now it can fire both buckshots and slugs, and let's check it out. You've got a sight, and you can add a tactical attachment. You can't add any barrel attachments to this gun, but you could add a red sight. You could add vertical foregrips and other attachments, which we'll cover later. And what's interesting, when you're reloading, you can switch between slugs and buckshot. Now if I were to hit reload, it reloads one at a time, which is kind of cool. But this is one of my favorite guns, and it does incredible amount of damage to both zombies and players alike. And it fires one at a time and reloads one at a time, and you can only hold 2 in the chamber. Now it has, the shotgun's base damage is different. In buckshot there's 12 pellets, and if all 12 pellets hit, each pellet does 20% base damage. So you can see that if you're up close and personal with someone and you fire some buckshot, they're instantly dead, which is amazing. But the difficulty is when dealing with PvP of getting close, but if you do, it's pretty awesome. And it's pretty fun to shoot zombies with it too. They're pretty prevalent. It's a very common gun found in civilian and farm areas, as well as the SS Haven in Alberton. So that's a good way to find that. And it's the most powerful shotgun. So don't think that the double barrel is the weakest of the shotguns. It's one of the best. So we're gonna get some more. We're running through ammunition in these tests. Now the second shotgun is the lever action shotgun. It can also take a tactical attachment and a sight. Also takes buckshot or slugs. It has a base damage of 16% damage per pellet, compared to 20% per pellet on the double barrel shotgun when firing buckshot. It's the weakest of the 3 shotguns, but one advantage it does have compared to the double barrel is that it can load 4 shells at a time, and it has a pretty decent reload and fire rate, as you could see right there. We're gonna use buckshot for sure because we don't want to run out of slug. So the lever action is pretty fun. It's found in civilian locations. And now finally we're going to cover the Nova shotgun. Now this one's pretty cool because it can get pretty tactical. You can add barrel attachments to it, and you can add sight attachments to it. You can't add tactical attachments to it, which is pretty interesting, so there's a trade-off there. However, it does come with a sight. Now if you want to know the radius of this gun, and we've got buckshot loaded in, and you can see here it can take up to 5. Now the base damage of this is 18% per pellet, so it's more than the lever action, but not as much as the double barrel shotgun. But the fact that it comes stock with a sight, which basically, if you're up close and personal with someone, this circle is going to show you basically the spread of the shotgun. Pretty accurate right there. See? Not too bad. Now these things are very close range weapons, but the fact that you can add a barrel attachment makes this thing pretty covert. It'd be good at ambushing players or zombies alike. It's got the second best base damage, and it's got the quickest reload, and it's not as heavy. Now what's interesting is the lever action is actually the heaviest shotgun. It's 1.5 kilos, the double barrel's 0.8 kilos, and the Nova's 1.2. So I would say if you're going to have a primary shotgun, you want the Nova, and if you are going to have a backup shotgun, like you're going to have a rifle as your primary, then you'd want the double barrel as your secondary for, you know, getting in close, things of that nature. And the fact that shotgun bullets, or shotgun shells, buckshot in particular, are very prevalent and easily found. Now the Nova is only found in police locations on the map, and it's a very rare gun. So I would say overall, your best primary shotgun is the Nova, and your best backup is the double barrel. So now we're going to cover submachine guns, of which there are 2. Now where are you guys hiding at? Alright, here we go. There are 2 submachine guns in the game right now. Uzi and the Pro 90. Now the Uzi has a weight of 1.5 kilos. Pro 90 is a little lighter at 1.25. We're going to be going over the Uzi. This one's found in militia locations, and it's got pretty weak base damage. It's actually the weakest of all the projectile-based weapons in the game at a base damage of 31%. Now it's got a magazine that can hold 40 bullets, and it uses civilian bullets. Now it's also got the fastest fire rate in the game, so let's pick up some civ bullets and unload a mag. Do a nice little ammo dump. Hey man. So we're going to offload all of our buckshot and all of our slugs. Pick up a bunch of these because we're going to be doing some dumps. Check the mag. We got a mag in there. Perfect. Alright. So we're going to go out, reload, and then unload. Drop our mag out. Get it in our inventory. Civilian bullets. And we got 5. It used 2 civilian bullets to fill up a Yuri mag. And the Yuri mag is what the Uzi uses. So we're going to load it up again. Now we're going to get a feel for the fire rate. Now something interesting about the Uzi is that it's only automatic capable. It can't do semi-auto. So watch the kick on this thing though. We're just going to hold it down. If we didn't compensate, you'd be firing straight at the air. So you're going to you can add a tactical attachment to kind of help with that. But you can see that the fire rate's pretty fast on that thing. Now here's the Pro 90. Now the Pro 90 can do semi or full auto. So we can choose between safety, semi if you look in the top right corner, or automatic. Now we're going to compare the fire rate. And just like the other one, you can add a barrel attachment, tactical attachment, or a sight attachment, or all 3. So we're going to check out the fire rate on this one. Pretty awesome. Now, the Pro 90 has a base damage of 36% and a magazine that can carry up to 50 rounds. It's found only in military locations, and it's pretty rare. So obviously the best submachine gun is the Pro 90. It's got a lighter weight. You can switch between semi-auto and fully auto, and it looks just pretty awesome too, and it's darker, so it's better camouflage. It's a little rarer as it's found only in military locations, and the Uzi's found in militia locations, and I found it pretty you can find it relatively easily, especially compared to the Pro 90, but the Pro 90 is easily the best submachine gun. So now we've made it all the way to rifles. Now there's 2 kinds of rifles. Now one quick fact about rifles is that they have a shorter effective range than most assault rifles. In dealing with rifles, assault rifles, and sniper rifles, we're also going to talk about their effective ranges. So first, the rifles. We've got 2 kinds of rifles. You've got your outfield and your Mosin. Now, the outfield is found in civilian locations. It's very common compared to all the other rifles and assault rifles and sniper rifles. It weighs in at 1 kilogram, and the base damage on it is 85%. It's got an effective range of 325 meters, and it uses the Bonjour clip, which is a very easily found magazine for these weapons. Now we're going to compare the Mosin. The Mosin weighs in a little less, actually, at 0.9 kilograms. It has a shorter range, however, than the outfield at 300 meters. It's found in militia locations. It uses the Bonjour clip as well, and it's much more difficult to find than the outfield. But if you were to think about it, I think that the best out of the 2 rifles is the Mosin because of the lighter weight. I like that, and I don't think the 25 meters is that much of a difference, because if you're going to go people hunting, I don't know if rifles are your best choice, because the weakness of rifles is their bolt action. So they have a relatively slow reload rate. Alright, so one of my favorite setups, because it's probably the best all-around gun, is having a nice scope anywhere between 6 to 12x, because I think 20x makes you very not good in medium range situations. A suppressor to attract as little attention as possible, and a bayonet, because honestly you're not going to need any foregrips or anything like that to kind of mitigate recoil, because it's bolt action rifle. That's my personal opinion, and that's one of my favorite setups. The weight of it is also a little less, and I'm big on rating and stuff like that, as you can see by my Hoard here. So that's one of my favorite setups in the game. So now we're going to be covering assault rifles, of which there are 3. Now assault rifles, some of them use military bullets, others use civilian bullets, and we'll be covering that. But there are 3 different assault rifles: the Maple Strike, the Swiskewer, and then finally we have, where you hiding at, the Zubeknikov. Now first we are going to cover the Swiskewer. Now I'm not a big fan of the Swiskewer for a couple different reasons. If you're going to use it as a sniper rifle, it's good, but I don't think it's the best choice. It weighs in at 3 kilograms, it's got an effective range of 400 meters, and it's found in police locations. The base damage of this gun is 81%. However, it's semi-automatic only, so it doesn't have the option to switch between semi-automatic and automatic. You have safety in semi, which kind of sucks. It uses NATO mags, which is good, and it weighs a little less than a Maple Strike, but I think the fact that you don't have the fully auto capability makes it a sniper rifle. But if you're going to want something with a 400 meter range, you're going to want to go for a Timberwolf. But I guess it's not the end all be all for sniper rifles, but it's not bad. One good thing is it can carry a larger drum. So you can see here with the Swiskewer we have an option to use magazines or drums. Now the amazing thing about the drums is NATO drums can carry 100 rounds, so you have a ton of ammunition. Now when you're going to reload this, you're going to have to use 4 military bullets to refill or 4 boxes of military bullets to refill an entire NATO drum. But now we're going to cover, where did we drop our mag? Now we're going to cover the Maple Strike. Now the Maple Strike is the heaviest of all of the weapons. It weighs in at actually it's the second heaviest. It weighs in at 3.5 kilograms. It has an effective range of 400 meters, 81% base damage, the same as the Swiskewer. It can, however, it can use semi-automatic or fully automatic. So that's the fire rate there. It's pretty good. It can also use the NATO drums. So at fully automatic, with a NATO drum, this is probably like if you were running in a squad, this would be the guy who's your heavy machine gunner. He's throwing down the suppressive fire, something like that. It's pretty cool gun, and it's got a good effective range, so it can also be used as a sniper rifle. It's a rather versatile weapon in that it can switch between kind of, sniping with a scope and a silencer, or fully automatic with a NATO drum magazine. So pretty cool there. And finally we have the Zubeknikov. Which uses Savage mags. And where's the drums? And it can also use a drum. So what's interesting about the Zubeknikov though is that it uses civilian bullets. So there, to refill a Savage drum, which can only carry 75 rounds, so it's not as much as the Maple Strike or the Swiskewer and their NATO drum, which can carry 100. The Savage drum only carries 75. It uses civilian bullets, which are a lot easier to find. Now when you compare the Maple Strike and the Zubeknikov, the kick is a little different, and we're gonna have to turn on fully auto. The kick is a lot higher on the Zubeknikov, so you're gonna want a tactical attachment for sure to help with that, which we'll cover a little later. The base damage is the same at 81%, so it's got a slower rate of fire than the Maple Strike, and a heavier recoil, but the fact that its bullets are quicker, and we are starving to death right now. Just realize that. That can happen. It's ridiculous. But luckily we have this nice pharmacy, and we're gonna equip ourselves. So when it comes to Maple Strike versus Zubeknikov, it's pretty tough because it's what are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing ease of finding more ammunition, or what? And you know, are you kind of unloading a lot of bullets at the same time? Are you kind of playing as the suppressive fire, heavy support role, you know, or what? So basically, I think the Maple Strike is probably a little better. However, one thing interesting about the Zubeknikov is its weight. It's 1 kilo lighter than the Maple Strike. So if you're doing a lot of single player raiding, Zubeknikov's probably a little easier because in most cases you don't need the epic firepower that is the Maple Strike, you know, using military bullets when you can use civilian bullets and lighter weight so you can raid more. Alright, so now we're on to sniper rifles, and this comes down to two of the most interesting guns in the game, the Matamoras and the Timberwolf. Now there's a hot debate as to which of these guns is better, and it's pretty tough to decide, although I do have a personal opinion. Now first we're going to be covering the Matamoras. Now one thing, I think one of the coolest things about the Matamoras is that it's fully auto only. You can't even put this thing on safety. And it has a 10 round magazine, 10 round Extraman magazine, which is extremely difficult to find. It does 99% base damage, so it is one shot kill possible, and it comes with a stock 7x scope. What is interesting is, listen, it has a built-in suppressor which you can't get rid of, which is interesting. And it's the quietest of all the suppressors. It also acts as a flash hider. It's pretty crazy. All that stuff comes stock, and it's fully automatic, so you can put out some fire pretty quickly when you need to. Now the magazines are pretty rare to find, so you're not going to use automatic nearly as much as you may want to with this weapon. So the fact that it comes with a stock scope and flash suppressor, or you know, flash hider and a suppressor default is pretty impressive. It's automatic capable, and it's one shot capable at 99% base damage. So if you get a headshot, it's basically game over. What is interesting is if you look here, the stock is orange, so it's kind of easier to see than say the Timberwolf, which we're now going to be covering. Now one thing to keep note about the Timberwolf is the Matamoras is found in militia locations. Weighs 3 kilograms, 350 meter range. The Timberwolf, on the other hand, is found only in military locations, and it's very rare. The Timberwolf and the Zubeknikov are the most rare guns in the game, and it uses an 8-round Lapua magazine. Now, unlike the Matamoras, there's no flash suppressor, and there's no flash hider, and there's no suppressor in it. It's pretty loud, and you can't quiet it. So basically, if you miss someone from distance with this thing, then you know they're gonna know where you're at, and you're gonna have a difficult firefight on your hands, more than likely, than if you were using the Matamoras. It has longer range, and it weighs 4 kilograms, making it the heaviest weapon in the game. And it uses military bullets, as opposed to the Matamoras, which uses civilian bullets, and it only takes 1 civilian bullet to refill the Extraman mag that the Matamoras uses. So if I was to pick a weapon that I would want to use, it would be the Matamoras. I think the Matamoras is the best sniper rifle. If you think a different sniper rifle is better, if you like the Timberwolf or you like the Matamoras, let me know why, because it'd be interesting to learn other people's experiences and opinions on the gun. So we've covered all of the weapons in the game that are projectile based. We're not covering any of the melee weapons. which we can in a later episode. But now we're gonna get on to, and we're gonna use, let's see, we'll get a shotgun. Am I dying again? Yes, I am. Please tell me this is full. Yeah, we're just gonna have to do this real quick, because we're losing color. That's the only real way to tell. But if you're busy crafting and not paying attention, it's easy to die. What's interesting is we lost, so we were maxed out when we were doing the explosives and traps tutorial. Needless to say, we had some mishaps, which are hilarious and you gotta check out if you haven't yet. So now it's time for attachments, and there are 3 craftable attachments that you can make. We're gonna cover those right now. Now we're gonna need to get close to the fire on this first one, and we're gonna make an improvised suppressor using 2 cans of cola, 2 cans, and fire to make a muffler. Alright, so what's cool about the muffler is it's a suppressor. So here, we're gonna compare the sound of the muffler and the suppressor. Now muffler is something you can make, suppressor is something you have to craft. So let's listen. Now we're gonna compare it to the suppressor. The suppressor is a little quieter. So you can see that the muffler is a pretty good improvised sound suppression thing you can add to your gun until you can find a suppressor. All you need is cans and soda cans, and it's literally a can with a soda can on the front there. Pretty interesting. And now we're gonna make the Zombanity. Now this is a pretty crazy attachment right here. So we're gonna get rid of that fire. We're gonna need 1 binoculars and 2 duct tape, and we're gonna make the Zombanity. Now this is pretty crazy, and it's good, I guess. Look at this. It's literally binoculars duct taped to the top of your gun. Now one thing's interesting is that there's no sight on it. You basically have to know where you're shooting, or you could add a red dot sight, you know, as to compensate for it. But so that's the Zombanity, which is basically like a scope you could make until you can find a good scope. And finally, we have the tactical light, which we need a hand lamp, not a torch. So we're gonna go back here. Alright, so hand lamp and duct tape equals a tactical light. This is pretty cool. Now we're gonna add it. Now to turn off the light on and off, you use F. Pretty cool there. So at night, it gets really dark. If you're kind of doing a tactical raid on an area, or you just want to be able to see, tactical light's pretty cool, and it's craftable, so it's a great attachment as far as that's concerned. If you don't have night vision goggles, tactical lights are great. So there's 3 main types of attachment: barrel attachment, sight attachments, and tactical attachments. Now we've covered a couple of the barrel attachments already. We have the suppressor and the muffler. Here's the flash hider, which basically, if you're firing from distance or firing at night, it makes it more difficult for other players to see your shot. It doesn't suppress the sound at all, so I think that suppressors are better. But flash hiders aren't bad until you can find a suppressor, or if you haven't made a muffler already. So you have flash hider, you've got your muffler, which is a good standard until you can find the suppressor, but I think the suppressor is the best barrel attachment. Now we're going to cover the sights attachments. So when it comes to sights, you have 2 main options when it comes to non-scoped versions. You have the red dot sight, and you have the holographic sight. I think it's based off personal preference. My personal preference, I actually like the red dot sight for more close range shooting. And if you were to do medium range shooting, like with an assault rifle, I think the holographic is pretty good. Now there are scopes as well, and what's interesting is you can add scopes. There's 6x, 7x, 12x, and 20x scopes. So we're going to see what a 6x and 7x scope look like. Now you can add scopes to your pistols if you wanted to. A 6x scope isn't too bad, actually. Kind of if you were to use your Desert Eagle here, or Desert Falcon rather, as more of a medium range sniper, a 6x scope works pretty well. Here's what a 7x scope looks like. Little farther range. Zooming in on that bush there. Pretty cool. And obviously there's the Zombanity as well, if you wanted to use that, but this is kind of a a last resort type of attachment. So next we'll be covering tactical attachments. Alright, so now we're on to tactical attachments, of which there are quite a bit. Now we're going to cover the grips first. Now there's an angled grip which looks like this. Angled grip reduces horizontal recoil, so that's like left and right. But it doesn't reduce vertical recoil. So if you have no other recoil reducer, which would be the next best one would be bipod. Now the bipod reduces vertical recoil a little bit, just a little bit. And then finally there is, oh, actually this is the bipod, excuse me. We're trying to do vertical grip. Alright, we got the vertical grip. Now watch the recoil. It's much less. Now if you want to reduce your vertical recoil the most, you're going to need a bipod, and you're going to need to be prone. And you can see that recoil is pretty negligible. However, you have to be prone when firing it. You can't really be crouched. Recoil is simply the same as well. So I think in most cases you would want the vertical grip, because it's better when running around. You can be prone, you can be crouched, you can be standing. Either way, it reduces the recoil relatively well. If you're doing long range sniping and you're going to do multiple shots, or if you're doing long range suppression fire, you're going to want to go prone with the bipod. And the vertical foregrip is kind of like only if you can't find the other two and you kind of want to do something to your recoil. So another tactical attachment is the bayonet, and to use that all you gotta do is press F. And on a civilian zombie, I think it's, you know, without upgrades it's like kind of 2 hits to the head, and military zombie it's a little more, but when you're upgraded it would still take 2 hits to the head on a military zombie, but it's pretty quick. It's got a nice quick action right there, and it basically turns a weapon into kind of your all-purpose type weapon. And there's a few more tactical attachments. We covered the tactical light, and then we're going to do the tactical laser here. So tactical laser is pretty cool. So if you press F, you see a red dot pop up. Now it's difficult to see at distance. It could be complemented with a scope, or maybe even a holographic sight. Well, holographic sight really here. This is the interesting thing. If you have a red dot sight and a Zombanity, now you have a sight. So that's one of the best uses for the red dot sight in the Zombanity. But I think overall my favorite one would have to be the vertical foregrip, which makes things a lot less. Here, we gotta get rid of this Zombanity. Pretty good. So that covers just about everything there is with firearms in the game at this point. I thank y'all for watching and for sticking through all this. I hope this answered a number of questions as far as what weapons are better, what's the best pistol, shotgun, bow, SMG, rifle, sniper rifle. My vote's still on Matamoras, but I'd love to hear your feedback. We covered how to craft certain attachments like the muffler, the Zombanity, and the tactical light. And we covered the 3 different types of attachments: barrel attachments, sight attachments, and tactical attachments. I thank y'all for watching this. Make sure to pull the trigger and give this video a like. And let me know what you guys want to see next. I'm thinking some advanced tutorials on building, advanced farming, and stuff like that. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Anyway, my name is Baron. I thank y'all for watching, and as always, I will see you all next time.
Wad. All right,
Alright, where you guys at? I brought
dressing
company.
here and
Ah,
bandit.
bad company!
Oh, I see you. I see you.
25.
Naked man, come here. Whoa, that sounds awfully
Where is here?
Everywhere.
straight ahead of you.
I see
Yeah.
you.
Oh my God, you have a lemming train of Zeds behind you.
What
Goodness.
Yeah, I
Oh,
told you. It's quite...
Oh my God, Wade, what are you doing?
There you go. Hey, come here. Do a giveaway to you.
I'm good.
Come here,
I'm just
Oh my God, I'm
I'm just gonna let Baron